Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Board of January 17th, the year 2024. We start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand with me and join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I address the membership here, I just want to let everybody know that we have two exits here, one in the back of the room, one to my immediate right. Please don't use the elevator if you need assistance, and someone will be out there to help you get down the stairs. Also, appreciate if anybody has cell phones or electronic devices that you can either mute or put them on vibrate. That would also be appreciative. We're also going to go into virtual, as every meeting we stayed with that. And do you want to check with Owen? We do have...
Mr. Chair, for your awareness, we do have Board Member Nelson who has joined us.
Okay, thank you. So at this point in time, I'm going to introduce the board members. To my far right there, the Director of Planning is Judge Sioris.
Good evening.
And in the back, if I can pronounce this correctly, first by saying happy birthday to Lisa.
Good evening.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
We're going to sing? No, I'm only kidding.
You can sing.
No.
And then we have member Dan Healy.
Good evening.
We have Town Council Representative, Mr. I did it again. Gwinnessy,
Good evening.
the Canuck way.
Back way.
And then on the far left, we have the man behind the curtain, Mr. Owen Provencher.
Good evening.
We have Town Engineer, Mr. Mark LaRue.
Good evening.
We have member, Mr. Richard Malaby.
Good evening.
We have Secretary, Mr. Andy Myers.
Hello.
And on virtual, we should have Dave Nelson. That's a little under the weather, didn't want anybody to catch his germs, so we appreciate you staying there.
Yeah, I'm not sharing my cold, it's all mine.
Looks like he's in Florida.
Yeah, it'd be nice, huh?
We're also, that anybody that is watching this that are either on the computer or on by phone, we do have www.zoom.us, and then you would enter the meeting ID of 754-663-912. Or you can use the phone with the same meeting ID as 301-715-8592. If and when we do open up the public hearing, if you wish to have any input, then you can *6 to toggle mute or unmute. And also, if you need to be recognized, then we have *9 to raise your hand. Moving on, we're going to have escrow, and the project name is Donald Bald Irrevocable Trust, developer East Winfield LLC, escrow account same, escrow type cash escrow, parcel ID location PID 11090, 53 English Range Road. Action requested, please establish cash escrow issued by Salem Cooperative Bank for the above noted project in the amount of $14,777.50. This escrow is non-interest bearing.
So moved.
So we have a motion by Mr. Granese, a second by Mr. Myers, where we do have a remote on. We'll have to call individuals. So Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mr. Granese.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. And Vice Chair Dave Nelson.
Yes,
Okay, so that passes. Next item is January 3rd, 2024, approval of minutes. So do we have?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no changes
Do
to
we
it,
have a couple of corrections I want to add when you finish making the motion?
I'll move to approve.
So we have a motion to approve
I have to abstain, I wasn't here.
Second.
Mr. Malaby will be seconding it. Lisa, under the absence, Mark Connors had previously resigned, so that can be removed. And then also,
Yeah.
next to John Morrison, he's not town council liaison, and the word alternate, if that could be removed too. That's all I have. So with the motion and second, I'll go with Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Abstain.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And I'll vote, the chair will vote yes also, and that passes. We have no correspondence. In the other business, we have the first extension request, PID 05038-001, 109 Rockingham Road, the Spofford Development. So, Mr. Sioris, you want to give us a little brief on that?
Sure.
Just-
Yep. This is the old junkyard on Rockham Road as you get towards Clemhaven on the south of Rockham Road. That's the junkyard site for the mixed-use development. It was approved back last summer, so they're requesting their first extension. If you approve it, which staff recommends, that would, the new expiration date would be July 19th, 2024. Staff would recommend approval on the first extension.
And before I do ask for a, excuse me, a motion, I just want to bring it up that it's been noted that over the last few meetings, that a lot of the developers seem to be having problems with the Department of Environmental Services as far as getting their information, AOTs, signed and passed down to them. Because a lot of them look like they keep on postponing them. So if they want to do work at 6 months, then they're losing the ability to take a, avenue in that. Also, on this one here, I'm going to assume, because of the soil location always being a potential issue, that's being monitored by our environmentalists. and
Yeah,
they're-
one of the conditions is the soils in the back of the property where the townhouses would be, if you remember that has to be cleaned up. DES would monitor that as well, and then Craig Durrett is aware of it from our engineering staff and Public Works too. But that was a condition of the approval to clean up those soils in the back.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Grenice, I thought you were going to make a motion?
Yep, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve first request to extend the conditional approval granted on July 19, 2023 for an additional 6 months for Spofford Development 05038-001, 109 Rockingham Road. The new expiration date would be July 19th, 2024.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so his extension's approved. With that, we are going to go directly into the public hearing, and there's actually going to be a second public hearing after this that almost kind of combines
have
both of them together, and I'm going to have Mr. Sioris explain that, and then
No updates?
we'll have Timothy go into a lot more detail. So, public hearing will be JAL LLC PID 11-58 and 58-8 through 58-12, and map 14, lots 13 and 15, Danielle Road. Acceptance review, lot line adjustment, and subdivision plan. Lot line adjustment, subdivision plan, 13 lots, phase 3. So that's the first one, so, Mr. Sioris,
Yeah,
you got the floor.
Yeah, as you can see on the map, but they'll get into the details, but I think what the applicant has requested, Tim Peliquins, the surveyor, Brent Cole's the engineer, that if they can give an overview of the overall project, because again, this is all part of Daniel Road. It's the same owner from phase 1 and 2 that you see Daniel Road. And some of the homes, or many of the homes, are occupied or under construction or a combination as we speak. So phase 3 and 4 is just an extension of Daniel Road to the northwest. So we thought it'd be easier to let them give an overview of the two phases and then come back. And it's 2 separate applications, and you have 2 separate staff reports that you have to go through the motions. But I think at least let them give the overview. We've had a few abutters call or email us. I know there's some at home watching on TV as well. So I'll turn it over to Tim and Brent. They can do the overview first.
Great. Good evening.
Welcome, Mr. Bellinger.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, I'm Tim Peliquin, I'm a licensed land surveyor. My company is Promise Land Survey. And as part of our team, I have Brent Cole from Granite Engineering. His business partner, Jeff Merritt, is also here, professional engineer as well. And Tom Lannon, representing JAL LLC. For this project known as Denali Estates. We have approved Phase 1, Phase 2 already, and we're reconfiguring part of Phase 2 into Phase 3, and then we're going to talk about Phase 4, which is a connection back to Forest Street. Brent was more or less giving me part of the evening off, so he's going to do a good part of the presentation, which is awesome. But I'll stay here and try to answer any questions as they come, as well as Tom Lannon, one of the owners of the property of JAL LLC, is also willing to help answer any questions the board or perhaps members of the public would have as we go through this. So our goal is to just give you a nice overview of Phase 3, Phase 4, and then we can drill it down. These will be separate potential approvals, Phase 3 and Phase 4, 2 applications. So with that, I'll pause and turn it over to Brent.
Thank you, Tim. For the record, Brent Cole with Granite Engineering. I feel like I remember a few of you that have been kind of along for this multi-phase conventional project, but I'll start from the beginning. The plan behind you is the overview of the progress we've made so far and what we're planning for Phase 3. So this is Denali Estates. It's a conventional, fee simple, single-family lot subdivision. Phase 1, which is shown in green, was a 12-lot subdivision that extended Daniel Road. Phase 2 was a further extension of Daniel Road and was actually a 13-lot subdivision that you approved last year. The project, if any of you have been out there, it's very nice so far. There's a lot of beautiful homes being built. The roadway looks really nice. It's becoming a very nice legacy project for JAL LLC. Phase 3 is what you see behind you in orange. This is it's a amendment to Phase 2, and it also extends Daniel Road a little bit further. Phase 2 actually becomes a 7-lot subdivision instead of a 13, because a lot of the lots that were approved in Phase 2 are now being manipulated as part of Phase 3. There was a parcel this year that JAL was able to acquire to the north, which allowed him to extend Daniel Road and create Phase 3 as shown above. It'll terminate at a nice cul-de-sac. It will not extend to Chancellor. Again, there will be no extension to Chancellor. It will be extending Daniel Road a 1,824 feet from the intersection of what will be future Forest and the intersection of Forest and Daniel. So again, Phase 2 actually becomes 7 lots. Phase 3 will be a total of 17 new lots. There will be 2 parcels that will be for future development. One is the big block of white to the east that is labeled Lot 15, and to the west is labeled Lot 58-8. You see those in white up there. This is in the LMDR district, so all the lots are 2 acres. They have access off of Daniel Road. The roadway has a nice gentle grade to it, similar to Phase 1 and Phase 2. When we get about halfway up Daniel Road, close to where that boundary line to be removed label is on the plan behind you, we have a descent down at about an 8% grade into the cul-de-sac area. And I'll get into the 8% grade, but there is a significant grade out there, so we'll get a little bit steeper than what's typical out there, was about 2 to 3%. The roadway will follow suit with Phase 1 and 2, closed drainage system. Part of this phase will drain to an existing pond in Phase 2, and the other part will drain to an existing pond behind Lot 13-1, following very similar suit to what has been designed and approved by the town before. pond that's out back behind the lot to contain all the drainage, make sure we mitigate flows while meeting the treatment requirements that the state requires. Similar to the last phase that we did on phase 2, we will need we're asking for a waiver tonight for cul-de-sac length. This is almost a temporary waiver. It will become null and void when Forest Street is constructed, and I'll get into phase 4 just shortly here. But we are requesting a waiver of cul-de-sac length for this phase of the project. Also, in addition to that waiver, we're requesting a relief from your 6% max grade roadway length, roadway grade to an 8%. I believe your regulations allow us to go up to an 8% max, but we need approval from this board as well as the engineer. We have worked with Mark LaRue. At this point, I feel like he's comfortable with the design. There is a significant grade out there, so this would prevent a lot of excess fill that would be needed in order to make 6% work. It's a short area of 8%. 8% is not very steep for New Hampshire standard. And there isn't much traffic towards the end of the cul-de-sac. People should be descending that grade at fairly easy speeds heading into the cul-de-sac area. The last waiver that we're requesting on this is a waiver that we've been granted on phase 1 and phase 2, and that's for HIS mapping. HIS mapping is required for lot sizing. Because we have water, we are in an area that DES allows us to reduce the lot loading because we don't need to put wells. We have municipal water out here, therefore the lots, according to the state for septic systems, can be reduced. And therefore, we're requesting that we don't do the HIS mapping. It's a little bit redundant since we know we meet the 2-acre minimum, and we know we'll meet lot sizing with that ease of having a water line. With that would conclude phase 3. I'm going to move into phase 4. I think it makes an easier presentation. Do you mind switching over the PDF to the phase 4?
Yep.
So phase 4 behind you is shown in blue. It follows very similar design to phase 1, 2, and 3. So I'll be a little redundant in my presentation, but phase 4 is what we alluded to back in phase 2, and it's the connection of Forest Street to Daniel. This will null and void the waiver that you'd have to grant tonight to allow phase 3 of Daniel to extend to where it is today, but would create a nice intersection there and prevent a long dead end. Phase 4 uses 3 existing lots and creates 13 new building lots. 12 lots will derive off of Forest Street itself, and 1 lot will be derived off of Daniel Road. There is 1 lot that remains as a non-buildable lot. It is currently a non-buildable lot today. We're reducing the size of it, but we're retaining the minimal frontage that it has on Wildwood, and it will remain a non-buildable lot. That's to the west of phase 4. It's labeled as lot 57, west of the plan. This roadway extension, there is a stub off Forest for future extension. It'll extend the road 1,781 feet. The grade will climb at 6%. We won't be exceeding 6%, but when we get to the top, it'll descend down into the intersection relatively flat. The lots in this area are a bit unique. They are split zones, so we have LMDR to the east and we have MDR to the west. The lots that sit wholly within the LMDR will meet the 2-acre lot sizing. The lots that are in the MDR will meet 1-acre lot sizing. If there's a lot that is bisected by the zoning district, wherever the property has the majority of land in follows that zoning district. And that was worked with George and your city attorney to make sure we decipher those regulations appropriately. The road, again, it follows very similar suit, closed drainage system. There is an additional stormwater pond out behind lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. Very similar pond with an access road that leads out back. The drainage study has been sent to AOT, has been reviewed by them, and we've gone through all the drainage design with your town engineer. All these lots are on septic system. The entire development has municipal water. We've worked with your fire department and your engineer to make sure the hydrants are situated in the appropriate areas. Similar to the Phase 3, which was similar to Phase 1 and 2, we are requesting a HIS mapping waiver, which was granted as part of Phase 1 and Phase 2. In addition to that waiver, we have a waiver to allow a retaining wall within the right-of-way. Forest Street was stubbed with a 50-foot right-of-way. At the end of that 50-foot right-of-way, there was a wetland crossing with an existing culvert. Our plan is to upgrade that existing culvert as part of this project, but because we don't have enough real estate to be able to grade out a proper head wall, the retaining wall that's associated with the head wall of the culvert is in the right-of-way, and your regulations do not, or prohibit having a retaining wall in the right-of-way. We've worked with your town engineer to make sure that it meets his standard with proper guardrail, and something that the town is willing to take over as part of the takeover process with the road. So I'm sure we have worked that out to his satisfaction. If we haven't, we'll continue to work on making sure that works for him. Similar to this phase, as last phases, we will be going to AOT. We will have a notification process to make sure we can upgrade that wetland impact, and we will have subdivision permits associated with these phases. With that, I think that's it, Tim, unless you have anything else to add.
Nope, other than the Conservation Commission has reviewed these plans, has site-walked this land with us, and we have their endorsement or signature on our plans. So it's favorable from the conservation standpoint, I would suggest.
They signed the block on here,
Yes.
so the chairman's got his name on here. Okay. So you completed your presentation.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
With that, we need to accept
All right,
jurisdiction.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept jurisdiction. I move to accept jurisdiction of the lot line adjustment and subdivision plan before the board for JAL LLC parcels 11-58 and 58-8 through 12 and map 14, lots 13 and 15, Daniel Road.
Do my staff report? Sorry. I have to do my staff report first.
Okay, sorry.
I thought you did that.
No. It just,
Oh, I take that back.
okay.
We'll hold it on the shelf.
We're almost there.
Yeah, we'll put Dave on the shelf.
It's habit. I'm going to go back to Phase 3 first, because technically we have to vote separately because it's 3 and 4. So let me just do Phase 3 first for the people at home. Okay, all right. So as you indicated, the developer is JAL LLC. Tom and Steve Landon are the owners. The parcels are 1158 and 1158-8 through 5812, and maps 14, lots 13, 15, Daniel Road. The purpose of the plan is a lot line adjustment and a 13-lot subdivision located in the low-medium density, again, for Phase 3. All town departments have reviewed the sign, including Conservation Commission. Brent, I do need one more waiver. When you wrote your waiver letter, you only had 3. You did not include the HIS mapping, so we just have to get that section for the record. So there'll be a 4th waiver. Okay. So you have 3 waivers. I think Brett talked about the maximum street grade, the alignment of the streets, the length of the cul-de-sac, and we'll get one more from them on the HIS mapping.
It's, do you want me to tell you what it is, Jordan?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Section 170
Yep.
dash 24
Okay,
dot A12.
great, thank you.
And it's noted on the Promised Land Survey plans as a waiver request. So just so you know, it's spelled out, at least in writing, on the plans.
You got an 8 by 12 to write something very quickly, so we can accept it as part of it.
Yeah.
Because it has to be in writing.
Yeah, just so we'll have it for the record, because it wasn't on the other letter request, it wasn't on the original one.
I
Yeah.
picked that up when he said
Okay, no
his
problem.
mapping.
So those are the waivers. Like they said, state approval from New Hampshire DES is pending. New Hampshire AOT permit is pending. Staff would recommend approval of both the waiver requests and the subdivision plan. And I know I've had a few calls from the abutters. I know there's some at home on Zoom watching. I know some are here, and some came in and looked at the plan and had no objection. So I just say that for the record. So staff would recommend approval on Phase 3 of both the waiver and the plan itself. So now Dave can,
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept jurisdiction. Move to accept jurisdiction on the lot line adjustment subdivision plan before the board for JL LLC. Parcels 11-58 and 58-8 through 12, and map 14, lots 13 and 15 Daniel Road.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we have accepted jurisdiction.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, excuse me, determination of regional impact pursuant to RSA 36:56. The board finds the proposal as presented at this time meets the definition of a development of regional impact.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Myers. Since Mr. Chase is not here today with this famous quote, we're going to put that on Mr. Healy.
No regional impact.
No, for the same reasons, Mr. Haley.
Mr. Malaby
No regional impact.
and Mr. Myers.
Yes, I've reviewed the plan and listened to the presentation, and I don't see any regional impact. No.
Mr. Nelson.
No regional impact.
Okay, and the chair will also go along with the board and make it unanimous, no regional impact.
All right, so,
that
Mr.
passes.
Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We have a public hearing is now open. Those who wish to speak either in favor or against may approach the location here and state your name and your address. So anybody wishing to speak to the plans, please come forward. Should I sing? Happy birthday.
Oh, and anybody online?
Seeing none, rise online, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so seeing none, we have a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, seeing no one rising to the occasion, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The public hearing is now closed. And it brings it back to the board for board members to have any questions regarding this. Or should I bring up Mr. LaRue now? So any comments that Public Works
No,
has?
we vetted out a lot of the points related to the waivers. Obviously, the waiver for the extended cul-de-sac would go away once the roads connect. The 8% for 6% slope, we do have a provision in there that allows to go to 8%, and they do meet the criteria for 4% or less in each direction after that certain length that's outlined in the LDCR. So that works. The retaining wall is kind of a contiguous element of having to do the culvert drain. So in that case, we said we would look at that as a part of the drainage accommodation because, we try not to encroach on wetlands any further, and that's what the wall does instead of sloping the earth further back into the wetlands. So there's no issue with that, and his mapping, again, is kind of a moot point. There are two items that we discussed and we're still discussing. We're trying to formulate a final determination. One's on the end of Forest Street, how we end the water main. That's just more of a mechanical thing between the developer and the town as far as how we end that with the hydrant. And then the other one is this unique situation involving the Postal Service where they do not want a mailbox in front of everybody's house any longer.
I've seen the new law.
And it makes it very difficult in a fee simple structure like this where there's not an association and the town doesn't want to bear responsibility and the developer, wants to have some sort of resolution to this, and we're trying to work in agreement within the guidelines and make sure that it ties to the homeowners, that there's going to be a centralized or maybe a couple of centralized locations where in one way you could just put a row of boxes just in one strip, and we have that on Brandy Rock Road on Gulf Road already. That was done about 10 years ago. Or you can have a receptacle like that you would see in a condo association. But again, we have to finalize, the end resolution and making sure that the town isn't responsible for maintenance to those receptacles or maintenance to enhance or rebuild the main receptacle if that's what's chosen.
Now, isn't it in the town ordinance, isn't there a requirement for the house to have the numerical number?
They have to have a number, but there's no requirement about a mailbox.
Oh, there's no actual requirement.
Everybody has to have an address, but you don't necessarily need, there's no requirement for a mailbox in front of your house if you elect not to have one.
And as far as the fourth waiver regarding the HIS standards, is that an issue with you?
No, because they're oversized lots in most cases, for what's required.
And our fire department has no problem with their trucks getting up 8%, 8.5%?
No.
Okay. Anybody else from the board wishing to ask questions? Also, Mr. Nelson, is he? I can't tell if he's there or not.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I actually just have one question. I think I'm going to know the answer, but feel compelled to ask. The engineer said there was no plan to make the extension of Daniel Road connect with the adjacent subdivision with a road that began with C. Cunningham or something like that.
Chancellor?
Chancellor Road. Chancellor?
And so it would be nice to just get a little bit of detail. I assume probably none of the neighbors want it, and the current landowners probably don't want it. But given that we do have language in our regulations and our master plan that encourages throughway connectivity wherever possible, I thought I would at least ask to, hear the reasons against it.
I think he's asking why. He's asking the
you
petitioner.
Is there a
understand?
response on that?
Sure, I can help, Mr. Chair. We understand that Daniel and Chancellor come close. The intent with this project is to have a dead end with a nice neighborhood, similar to what Chancellor has been experiencing for umpteen years now. Connecting the two was really never in the cards. The issue with connecting the two is that there's a significant grade difference. I mentioned that the need for this waiver with the 8% is because the land falls off. In order to actually connect them with a proper road, you would need vertical curves, which take up a lot of space. And I don't necessarily know that the connection between Daniel Road and Chancellor would actually be viable. Therefore, we've elected to leave Daniel Road as a nice cul-de-sac. We've made sure to work with the fire department and your town engineer to make sure that that meets their requirements. And I believe Chancellor appreciates that.
Anybody else having questions?
Nope. And
Other than Mr. Nelson, any further questions? And Mr. Provencher, anybody with their hands raised? Or do we have anybody else online?
Seeing none, rising, Mr. Chair, seeing none rise.
Okay, and Mr. Nelson, you okay now?
Yes, that was very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, with
All
that,
right, so Mr. Chairman, there's 4 waivers. I can take them separate, or I can do them all 4 together.
I would think all 4 together, because I think
There's
they're
no-
sufficient.
Yeah, no one has any problems with that? Mr. Nelson?
Seeing none, go ahead with it.
Dave doesn't, right?
Aye.
Mr. Nelson, you don't have any issues with that, do you?
We're going to
No, sir.
combine all 4
All
waivers in one.
Nope, he said no. All right, now, Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the following waivers. LDCR Section 17026A 15, table of geometric standards to allow for maximum street grade up to 8%. The next waiver I move to grant is LDCR Section 17026C, vertical alignment of streets to allow the road grade up to 8% in certain section of the new proposed road to avoid creating excessive volumes of fill. The next waiver I move to grant is LDCR Section 17026B5, cul-de-sac length to allow for length of road to extend beyond the dead-end street of 2,000 feet. This will be temporary until the development is connected to Forest Street. And we have the fourth waiver is Section 17024A12. It's requested which required HIS mapping on the project. They're requesting this because the property has municipal water, which allows the state to reduce lot sizing. Therefore, by meeting the town minimum requirements, it'll meet the state requirement.
Second.
Four waivers.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, we have a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So this phase has been accepted.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comments, I'm going to move to finding of facts. Move to find the proposed plan does not alter the existing conditions which would affect access to the lots, ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood remains unchanged. As a result of the subdivision plan, the proposed development would allow for providing additional housing opportunities in the community as a high demand for housing in both Derry and state New Hampshire continues.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Grenice and a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comments from the board, Mr. Nelson, do you have anything else? Any comments?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. I move to approve pursuant to RSA 6764I, completed application with the following conditions. Subject to the owner's signature, subject to the on-site inspection by town engineer, establish appropriate escrow as required to complete the project, establish escrow for the settings of the bounds, or certify the bounds have been set, note approved waivers on the plan, subject to receipt of applicable state and local permits related to the project, AOT and state subdivision approval from NHDS, subject to the appropriate recording fees payable to the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. This includes a $25 L-chip fee, recording fees for the Mylar, and notice of decision, subject to conditions as outlined in the email from Chief Engineer Mark LaRue, Public Works, dated January 10th, 2024. Obtain written approval from the planning director or designee that the GIS disk is received and operable and complies with LDCR Section 17024-14C. Conditions precedent shall be met within 6 months.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Grenice, a second by Mr. Myers. And with that, Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So that phase, now we're getting ready to,
Phase 4.
Same thing, again, just for the
So-
record, I'll do my staff
next public
report.
hearing will be JAL LLC, PID 11-57, 57-17, and 58-8 Danielle Road. Acceptance, review, lot line adjustment and subdivision plan, lot line adjustment and subdivision plan, 13 lots, Phase 4. George,
For the record, this is easy, I get the easy part tonight. Just for the record again, the applicant's JAL LLC, the developer is Tom and Steve Lannon. The project is Denali Estates Phase 4. Again, the parcel ID is 1157, 57-17, and 58-8 Daniel Road. The purpose of the plan is for a lot line adjustment and a 13-lot subdivision located, these are in the medium-density residential for Phase 4. All town departments have reviewed and signed the plan, including Conservation Commission. We have two waivers. The first, again, is for the retaining wall and the right-of-way, and the second you have, again, for the HIS mapping, Section 17024. State permits, again, subdivision approval from New Hampshire DES, AOT permit are pending. And again, staff would recommend approval of both the waiver requests and the subdivision plan.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Tim. Is it basically a ditto?
Everything we said before.
Okay.
Yeah, he talked about both, we're only doing the first one first.
So ditto on that one. So with that, to accept jurisdiction?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes?
So they're gonna have, I know it's in the plan, but, so they'll have access, Forest Street will have access to Daniel Road?
Correct.
Okay.
The whole town will have access to Daniel Road. It's a public road.
What's not, is it connected now?
It's a dirt
Forest
road.
Street will
It's a dirt
provide that
road.
connection to Daniel Road.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I was looking at my phone, but it was an old picture.
Yep.
On the thing. All right, so, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to accept jurisdiction of lot line adjustment subdivision plan before the board for JL LLC, parcels 11-57, 57-17, and 58-8 Daniel Road.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Ganese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We have accepted jurisdiction. Determination of regional
Mr.
impact.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, determination of regional impact. Pursuant to RSA 36:56, the board finds the proposal as presented at this time meets the definition of a development of regional impact.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
No, no regional impact.
Mr. Ganese?
No regional impact.
Mr. Malaby?
No regional impact.
Mr. Myers?
Don't we have to give some reasons? I've reviewed the plan, I've looked at it, I've listened to the presentation, and it seems like it's very localized, so no.
Mr. Nelson, want to top that one?
Yeah, I have reviewed all of the criteria for it being a regional impact, and it does not meet them, so I would say no regional impact.
And the chair goes along with that also.
We should give a public kudos to Attorney Andrew Myers, since you're an attorney, for the record.
Thank you, George.
So we're going to
I
open the...
stated my reason because of the thing. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ganese. We have a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Ganese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
And Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Public hearing is now open. Anybody wishing to speak to this particular phase, please come forward, state your name and address.
Seeing none rise online, Mr. Chair. Actually, take that back. We have someone who wishes to speak.
Nice.
Named Higgins. They've raised their hand. They are now able to speak.
So please state your name again. I believe it was Higgins.
Higgins, yes.
Yeah, here in Higgins. Sorry, I live at 13 Owl Street, and I'm just trying to understand, what is the plot line looking to be moved? Is it strictly regarding the street grade?
You know where Owl Street is, right? You going to respond to that, Tim?
I certainly can. I believe what she's referring to is the plan that's behind you. If you look west, there's a label that says boundary line to be moved. It's an eternal boundary line. Like I mentioned, there's 3 lots that make up Phase 4 that will be essentially moved and altered to create the 13 lots that you see there. This lot, that boundary line to be moved, is today further east. We're moving it to the west, as shown there, in order to give more space for our development to actually create those 13 lots. So it's our property line that's actually being moved internally. It should have no bearing on her property at L Street.
Are you okay with that, Mrs. Higgins?
I am, thank you. I just wanted some clarification. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, may I know Ms. Higgins' first name and address, please?
Yes, apologies. My name's Karen, Karen Higgins, at 13 Owl Street, L.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Venture, anybody else?
Seeing no one else rise at this time, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Nelson?
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, seeing no one online, no one else coming up from the public, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Ganese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The public hearing is now closed. We're going to move into granting waivers, or do you want the board to ask questions? Anybody have questions? Well, let's give it to Mr. LaRue
Any
first.
questions?
And then if Mr. LaRue has anything, then we'll go to Mr. Ganesh and then Mr. Myers.
I have no additional comments.
Yep.
No, I think Mr. Myers has some questions.
Mr. Chairman, I was more curious than anything else about the lot that the previous speaker was just asking about, the Lot 57, the boundary line to be moved, and that lot that you pointed out was non-conforming. Why couldn't that land have been divvied up amongst all the lots that we're looking at? You understand the question?
I certainly do. It's an existing lot today. I don't know what the future holds. I think the project that you see before you, there was land probably left over that could have been divvied up, but we wouldn't have the project before you today. So I think it's an existing lot. It's got significant amount of acreage for that MDR. Although it's not buildable right now, it could be buildable in the future. It didn't make sense to give it to and divvy it up for the lots that would never really be used. There is a wetland that kind of splits the property from north to south there. So it really has no benefit to lots 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 7. It's leftover land. It'll remain as the existing lot today.
Okay, again, it's just more out of curiosity than anything else. You say there's no plans for it today. Do you have any idea of the future? I don't know if that's a proper question, but I'm just mentioning it because it seems like it would be a long shot for a variance based on the limited frontage. So, I mean, is there any idea what the future might hold? Maybe a park or something like that?
So any of those are possibilities, I guess, including a variance for a single-family lot. But there's a significant wetland crossing. There's a lot to go on there. So right now it's just land that's going to remain in additional work in the future. But yeah, it could be deeded in some way, fashion in the future. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, though.
Mr. Ganesh, did you have a question?
Nope.
I do have a question. I drove up there today, and looking at the soil composition on all the boulders and gravel, are you having any issues with DES as far as septic systems?
No, we've done test pitting throughout, and there is soil, like everywhere in New England. There is outcroppings. I know exactly what you're looking at and seeing when you come out Forest and you're looking to the left. There's some large outcroppings and other things, but there's also good land in the front, and we're able to do excavation to get soils, and we're demonstrating that on 4,000 square foot suitable leaching areas that we've proved out do exist. Greater than 4 feet to water to ledge, and suitable soils.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Mr. Ganesh, the waiver.
Mr. Nelson, have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I actually do have one question, similar to my question on Phase 3. There is a section of our subdivision regulations. I can't cite the section because all my books are out in the car, and I haven't been out of the house today because I'm not feeling well. But it basically says there is a strong disincentive, if not an absolute prohibition, on what we had called bowling alley lots or dog leg lots. And I noticed that most of the lots in Phase 4 fall into that bowling alley and or dog leg. I suspect I know the reasons in order to meet minimum area for the district. But I'd like to have a discussion about, are we going to try to clean that up, or are we going to let that go by?
Yep, you want me to take a shot at it?
Sure.
It's a good question, obviously, but I don't know that regulation very precisely, but anything that's called generally a flag lot or a bowling alley lot or whatever those terms may be, I'd need to read exactly what it is, but we believe we've met the spirit of the ordinance with this. It has frontage, the lot lines are meeting at particular angles to the road that are required. It has the frontage, it has the acreage. They're long, narrow lots indeed, but we believe it meets the spirit of the ordinance, and we've been through it.
The owner has used footprints, and he's developed each one of these lots, so he knows that they meet his standard of buildable. What these 1 acre lots allow that the 2 acre lots, don't really lend to is just a different housing stock. You may not see the large colonials that you see out on Daniel, but you may see capes and ranches, which allow some diversity throughout the subdivision, allows for someone to pick something different than the large colonials that are becoming accustomed on the 2 acre lots. And I think that's kind of what your zoning ordinance lends to, is that 1 acre lots may not have the large house, but Tom and Jal have the different housing stock to be able to sell to different people throughout Derry.
Well, being 1 acre lots, would you be looking at workforce housing for that and getting tax credit?
I don't think we're looking at that right now.
But the actual not the square footage, but the setbacks and the areas are minimal, so there will be smaller houses, and Brent pointed that out extremely well. And our client is aware of that these would be smaller houses.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
Does Mr. Nelson have anything else?
Mr. Nelson?
All right, so if there are no other questions, there's 2 waivers, so I'm going to do them both. It says, I move to grant the following waivers, LDCR Section 17026A 18, retaining walls in the public right-of-way to allow for the culvert retaining wall to be located in the right-of-way. This would minimize the cuts in the road, not impact the wetland in the abutters lot. After review of the waiver, the board finds strict conformity to the regulations, pose a necessary hardship. The applicant would not be contrary to the spirit of the regulations.
Oh, can I see that one?
You had a Lisa, because it was make it permanent record. And the second one is Section 17024A12, waiver request for the HIS map in the project. They're requesting this because of the property has municipal water, which allows the state to reduce lot size and therefore meets the town minimum requirements and the state requirements.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, a second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Ganese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So the waivers have been accepted.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, I'm on a roll.
Continue on.
Move to find the proposed plan does not alter the existing conditions which would affect access to the lots, ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood remains unchanged as a result of the site plan. The proposed development would allow for providing additional housing opportunities in the community as a high demand for housing both in Derry and the state of New Hampshire continues.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Ganese?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Sorry, I got Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Moving on.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, if there's no other further comments, I move to approve pursuant to RSA 6764I, completed application with the following conditions, subject to the owner's signature, subject to the on-site inspection by the town engineer, establish appropriate escrow as required to complete the project, establish escrow for the settings of the bounds or certify the bounds have been set, note approved waivers on the site plan, subject to the receipt of applicable state and local permits related to the project, AOT and state subdivision approval for NHDES, subject to the appropriate recording fees payable to the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds. This includes the $24 L-chip fee, recording fees for the Mylar and notice of decision, subject to the conditions as outlined in the email from Chief Engineer Mark LaRue, Public Works, dated January 10th, 2024. Obtain written approval from planning director or designee that the GIS disk is received and is operable and complies with the LDCR Section 17024-14C. Conditions precedent shall be met within 6 months.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Ganese, second by Mr. Myers. Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Ganese?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So the next phase has been approved. Anybody that is in harm, they have 30 days to either come back to the board or go to Superior Court. So with that, congratulations. Just want to say that I was up there today and very impressed of what you're doing up there. It's looking great, the acreage and so forth, so it's nice and neat. Very nice job, guys.
Yep, looks good.
Good deal. We thank you so much for your
Thank you,
time.
board. I really appreciate it.
Got a lot of work ahead of you. I could use some of that gravel. Okay, any comment from the board members? Any comment from Mr. Nelson while we have him online?
No, sir, thank you.
So with that,
I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn, and hopefully Mrs. Carvalho enjoys the rest of her birthday, go home and enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
I'll second that. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
so with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Me.
Opposed, abstain, motion, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
You need a gavel.